Have a special heart for the Topeka Performing Arts Center. I like to tell people I was the very first person to dance on the stage after it was restored.
There are so many moments, if you will, and it's been 4 years since I became the curator of this iconic Performing Arts Center. The first moment that I had was walking into the building and seeing this beautiful Art Deco structure that really wasn't built in the Art Deco era, but it was made to look like the 1940s.
I remember very vividly coming here in the 3rd grade, and for the Shuffle Theater Clinic, I got to come here and put makeup on and costumes and perform on that big stage.
The young person that was at the register said he knew me. And I didn't really know why he knew me, but then he went on to explain that I was his shuffle theater instructor when he was 8 years old.
He was going to do a live production in the spring of Jesus Christ Superstar, and this was in the fall. I said, Larry, let's take advantage of all the free publicity about Superstar and let's do our own production. So he checked into it, we took it to the board. I said, for this to be successful, I'm going to need a stage manager, which was with Kathy Kilman, a music director, Nancy Epic. I said, if these people will sign on, it takes a community. Not only does it take a village to raise a child, it takes a community to put on a musical of that stature. I said, I need Jane Anderson to be my pianist. I need Sally Glassman to help with the choreography of the exceptional dancers. I need Judd Mason to be Superstar, to be Jesus. I said, he has been performing in California, he's just moved back home. If these people all say yes, and the sun and the moon align, we're gonna make some money and have a hit show. All of a sudden, we started down the road for Superstar. Nancy was a very good friend of mine. And to make this happen, we called in a lot of markers. So Nancy called in a lot of her musician friends. We had a very professional orchestra because she called in the best of the best in Topeka to play in the pit. And I called in my friends to help with the props, with the costumes, and you know, we even called friends that we knew were good for the parts. We had open auditions, but if things weren't falling into place, we'd put in a call and say, hey, I really think you'd be good in this part. Why don't you come audition? And Nancy did that too. And Nancy is a very good friend of mine. I've known her forever. And about a month and a half into rehearsal, I stopped by to pick her up because she lives very close to me. And it was my turn to drive, and she didn't come out. And that wasn't like her. Nancy was never late to rehearsals, ever. And so I went on to rehearsal, I thought, and we kept calling her, and then we found out that she had passed from a heart attack. And so we did the show for Nancy, and we did the show for TPAC. There isn't anywhere else that you can, as a performer, perform in front of over 1,200 people.
Dwight Yoakam, who I wouldn't say is a favorite of mine, but I had a favorite song, and Fast As You is the name of the song. He did that as his closing number, and I happened to walk in because I usually see maybe the first song of a show and maybe the last if I'm lucky.
I was one of the original shuffle theater instructors for the technical theater portion of the shuffle theater clinics.
With the Shuffle Theater Clinic, we again have 3rd graders come in and they get to experience acting, dancing, costuming, makeup, technical theater, and so they get to see how the light works and things that I don't even understand, but they teach them.
The biggest challenge is this facility is not a theater. So we do not have someone on staff that makes costumes. We do not have someone on staff that builds a set. We do not have someone on staff that does a lighting design or sound design. So
Capital funding is probably at the top of our needs list because it drives the ability to provide the youth, educational, and artistic programming for especially our at-risk youth.
Technicians do a really good job of keeping things operating, but parts for some of that antique equipment has become hard to find or impossible, and the technology is well outpaced our ability to replace equipment.
My phone started blowing up with texts and calls and emails regarding a young boy named Luke, whose mother and father had bought him tickets to the show. And unfortunately, he couldn't make that performance that night. He was in the hospital. And what could we do for him? Could we send some of the characters down to see him? Well, that wasn't possible. But by the grace of the promoters of the show, we were able to get some bubble wands with bubble guppies characters and bring a bunch of them down to the hospital. And Ashley Nadeau, our director of marketing, and I made that trip, met Luke's parents, met Luke, met the counselor who was assigned to him in the pediatrics ward, and found that Luke had a lot of problems, both physical and mental, and he couldn't communicate in voice. But certainly what we saw in his eyes when the bubbles, blew into his face and he was covered with bubbles, or the look on his parents' faces when they saw his face light up with that moment, that we felt we'd brought a little bit of bubble guppies to him. And I remember saying to him, well, the next time they're around, we can't wait to have you here, or the next time that they're playing near you, the Bubble Guppies want to have you as their guest. It was only a couple of months later that we learned that Luke had sadly passed and was never going to see that again. It's probably a backstage moment, but it made me feel that there are things that we do, or things that we at the Topeka Performing Arts Center can do to make somebody's experience here wonderful.
Just the local ballet companies. We have two very fine ballet companies, so I love to watch the children grow and develop. And then just all of the local dance companies when they have their recitals. I'm glad that we share our building.
May not be someone that can buy a $95 ticket to a concert, but they enjoy the arts, they enjoy the performances that we do.
And they talked to me and they said, I remember being here in elementary school and middle school and seeing the Nutcracker on stage and thinking, someday that's going to be me, someday I'm going to be on that stage.